have mic here. Just I wanted to ask about the.
आप अपना परिचय दें और फिर सवाल
पूछें. Rajesh I am advocate from Mumbai, working in human rights too. Just I wanted to know that one of the difficulties that you have said that the documents of the person who has gone abroad for a job, they are being taken by the employer. Now can that be simply that you have a set of e-documents which always remain and which are recognized by the government so that they are accessible to him always, so physical documentation to carry may not be necessary. Any work on this line has been done so far? Yourself.
Actually, I don't know if you're aware, but the Government of India, the Ministry has an e-migrate system. So anyone who's going through clearance actually gets an e-locker. And this locker is where the personal information of the person who's the migrant is all there. It's all there in soft copy, whether it's a contract, who the employer is, who the recruiter is, the insurance scheme that they've taken, everything is in the locker and it's all there. The problem arises when people are not going through this channel or they're ECNR candidates, which means that they're not using the e-migrate for clearance. For everyone who's going through the clearance system, a lot of this documentation is already available. But even having said that, once you're in another country, if you don't have a passport, you don't get an exit very easily. You obviously you need a paper to get out of the country also. And though the embassy is able to fairly quickly now give you a emergency passport because they have all your information, there is still a time lag at times, no? Because by the time you will get an exit clearance from your employer, you must have a passport. It's been happening very rapidly. To be fair, the missions have been really good at giving these exit passports. But it's the problem arises when you have a number of people who are not using these channels. So that's where, but it has begun, and I think this is one of the few countries that actually has this system now in place. There is no right for an employer to take a contract. This is the sovereign right of a citizen of the country, and you're supposed to hold your passport. But just because you're supposed to hold your passport doesn't mean that you get to hold your passport. And while there is a lot of advocacy and push being made and done globally for employers in destination countries to not be confiscating passports, this has been a practice for many years, and as you know, some practices don't break immediately. They take a very long time to break. And so this is not really happening. Also, there are a lot of issues to understand. They have created a system in some construction companies where the worker chooses to put the passport away because of the fact that it can otherwise get stolen in the camps. So there are locker systems, or there is a system. And so they give it to the custody of the employer because no systems have been created for safety other than that. So that seems to be one way. For a lot of employers, they have paid a lot of money sometimes to get these workers. And if you've paid an average of $5,000 to $6,000 to get a worker, you're not very keen to give the passport for the fear that they will run away. And so this is the case we find with a lot of domestic workers, where the costs of recruitment are extremely high for the employer, and they've put down 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. They're not prepared to give you the passport because they feel you will run away, and all the money that they've put to get you in will go. So here is where recruitment practices are being worked on and being changed so that agents and all those people who are involved in some of the money making can actually be made more accountable, so that at the end of the day the worker can actually hold their passport. But we're not very close to it in that respect.
मैं डॉक्टर ज्ञानेंद्र कुमार, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर, महिला विकास संस्थान। इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस और जो आज ये प्रोग्राम हो रहा है, सारे विद्वान लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, लेकिन मैं एक कमी महसूस कर रहा हूँ। मेरा सजेशन है आपको कि जितनी इंफॉर्मेशन यहाँ आई है, मिल रही है और आप दे रहे हैं, उसके लिए यदि कुछ यहाँ नर्सिस भी होती, कुछ वॉलंटियर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी होती, कुछ सेलेक्टेड लोग ऐसे होते जो आपके मैसेज को आगे भी ले जा सकते थे। जैसे कि अभी आपने कहा कि भाई बाहर जाने का इतना फ़ायदा नहीं है, उतनी सैलरी यहाँ भी मिल सकती है, तो इस ग्रुप को और भी लोकल तरीके से बढ़ाया जा सके तो अच्छा है। मुझे व्हाट्सअप किया था किसी ने कि मैंने फिर सोचा मैं भी चल के प्रोग्राम अटेंड करूं, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच, आप सबने इन्फॉर्मेशन दी। लेकिन आगे जब कभी प्रोग्राम हो तो इसको आप एडवर्टाइजमेंट के हिसाब से, पब्लिसिटी के हिसाब से और भी कर सकते हैं और उससे काफ़ी लोगों को फ़ायदा होगा। थैंक यू।
Myself, Ajina Sayam. I'm the Assistant Secretary General of Trained Nurses Association of India. Yeah, I'm her subordinate. Ma'am, my question is, ma'am, you mentioned that the non-skilled workers or like domestic workers, for the recruiters has to pay some $2,500 as a deposit. So my question is, ma'am, is there any facility or possibility when we are sending the nurses to abroad? Whether, like for example, like many have come from Iraq, many have come from Libya, they have not paid their full salary. So they have made a meeting in Kerala. I'm from Kerala, so they have made a meeting in Kerala for their grievances. But still, they have not got. Suppose if there is such a like a deposit scheme, or like you said for domestic. So is there any possibility for us while we are recruiting, or when a recruiting agent is recruiting, is there any facility for the employer to deposit some amount in the name of the nurse?
There isn't. At the moment, there clearly isn't, and I'm not so sure or convinced that that may be the best route. I think when, right now, as you know, nurses have to go through government systems. Yeah, they have to go through clearance, normally was not the case, and they also have to go through the registered state agencies, the government agencies, right? The situation here really needs to be that the recruiters need to ensure that the hospitals they're sending them to, or wherever they're sending these nurses to, are actually stable situations. That actually some of these hospitals are actually good hospitals, and I do know private recruiters do that kind of fact finding before they send people out. But of course, when you have a crisis, as we saw in Libya, or we saw in some of these other countries, in Iraq, this is very difficult. This is something that someone cannot predict what will happen. And when there is a conflict breakout, the whole situation is on its head, really. I mean, it's out of control, and it's very hard to then hold an employer accountable, because the chances are the employer also does not have the access to money to be able to pay them. But having said that, I think the case of Saudi Arabia is a very good example that we've recently seen for construction workers, where we've seen the government of India go in there. The Minister of State, Mr. V.K. Singh, did go in there and negotiated for the companies to pay for their return. So they paid for the workers to come back, but they also agreed that they would pay the wages, they would pay the back wages, and that they would transfer this money back. And this has been agreed at the government level. So the government has stood behind their companies in Saudi Arabia to say they are bankrupt, they don't have the money, but we will in time be able to make sure that that money is paid to India. And this needs to happen, which is why when I was talking, I was saying bilateral relationships are absolutely key. They're absolutely key to ensuring our workers have better rights in those countries. And these bilateral relationships have to be negotiated by the government. They are a Ministry of External Affairs mandate. And the more and better that they negotiate, the chances are that our workers will have better rights at the end.
I'm Shubham Verma. I'm a researcher in Public Policy Research Center. It's a think tank working in the field of public policy. And I have this question, you all have talked about the kafala system. I don't know very much about this. So what is it? And is it a legal system or is it illegal? And what are the restraints in that system? What is this kafala system?
The kafala is a sponsorship system, which means that every worker can only go into the country if they have a sponsor, their kafil, who is responsible for everything that happens to that person, including residency, healthcare, everything that happens. It also means that this person actually has full control in many ways of the worker. It is a legal system. It is the system of the Gulf. It is the system of how people come into the Gulf. You and I cannot go into the Gulf if we do not have a kafil to work under. So even you and I cannot go unless someone sponsors us to come in as a worker into the country. This is the system of the land.
Is it legal to take the passport of a worker?
No, it is not legal for any country ever to take the passport of any worker. This is the sovereign right of every citizen to hold on to their passport.
But they do.
They do, and like I explained earlier, it is happening. It's been a practice that has been there for a while.
I must explain here. Passport is the property of Government of India. At any time from an individual in India also can be withdrawn by Government of India. तो जो दूसरी कंट्री के लोग हैं वो तो इसको ले ही नहीं सकते हैं. कफालत, जो आदमी वहाँ से कफालत देता है, is called कफील. उनकी कंट्री के हिसाब से ये जो कफालत है, it is a law.
Hello sir, myself Rajesh. I am from Indraprastha University and right now I am a ITI activist and right now the question is sir, why not there is an international helpline number and the international grievance portal for the immigrants? The question is that this is not possible without the intervention of United Nations body and the International Court of Justice intervention, because as we see in the law of UAE and Qatar, the laws are very amicus and friendly. So why not the country United Nations especially intervene in especially for the India, so that there are internationally friendly laws, because the laws which are friendly and simple, that are not known to the public. So basically for the bilateral agreement that the ma'am said, it will work. Definitely it will work, and this will not be possible without the intervention of UN body and International Court of Justice.
माइक काम नहीं कर रहा शायद, पर आप तो लॉयर हैं, आपको जरूरत नहीं पड़नी चाहिए.
Yeah, my name is Harshvardhan Singh Rathore. I'm an advocate. Just with respect to the instance of Saudi Arabia, which you spoke about. Yes, yes. Yeah, my question with respect to the Saudi Arabia instance, which you mentioned just now. So do we have any legal mechanism with respect to the wages not being paid to the laborers, like apart from the bilateral dialogues between the government and until the government involves into it?
Yeah, that's your question?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of wages not being paid or any working conditions not being met in a destination country, it is the responsibility of the destination country. It is not actually the responsibility of this country. So if I'm working in, say, Saudi Arabia, and my wage is not being paid in Saudi Arabia, it is really the law of the land that has to work for me. And that is why it's important that there are contracts, because these contracts can then be upheld in the court of justice over there. There are labor courts, there are many labor courts, and if the paperwork is right, you can get justice. It's not that justice has never been met, it has been met in many instances. But in many instances, it is construed and heavily in favor of the employer also. But in terms of upholding those contracts, there are labor courts, there is access to also labor courts, not the easiest sometimes, but that is how justice is to be met. An Indian court or from India, it's very hard to, the contract is signed in that land, it belongs to that land. So it is not something that the Indian court can hold somebody else accountable for. The only thing that then works is these bilateral relationships. But what is very, very interesting and what is happening between these countries, and it's really interesting, is that all of them are trying to sync their systems, as I call it. So we have an electronic system which is the e-migrate, and we're working with that, and they also have a system. Now when these systems will connect, they're not connected. When they will connect, it will become a lot easier, because then whatever papers we are holding are exactly the papers that cannot and have not been changed in those countries. So they will actually uphold them. At the moment we have a set of papers, they have a different set of papers. So the worker got something here but got something else over there, which means that we are kind of at a loss. But if it's the same paper, then we can actually start holding that up and saying that, okay, well, your employer said A, so A needs to be met at. Right now we're not at that stage.
Yeah, because suppose if the case of Saudi Arabia, where almost 60 to 70 workers were involved, and that's why Government of India got involved into it. But what in case of individual labor, who has got stuck in some foreign land, and he is not being paid, so we can't even think about him going into the courts and asking for a valid right.
इसमें एक्ट में जो प्रॉक्टर जनरल वाला जिसमें एक्ट है ना, जिसमें तो वन कैन go through Proctor General, and Proctor General has some obligations under the Act to take up the matter. Yeah.
I'll tell you what they've been doing in practice, so that we know what's going on.
Very good act.
In practice, what has
Migration
happened?
Act.
Immigration Act 1983.
Immigration Act.
1983 Immigration Act.
Very important.
But what has been happening interestingly is where there have been problems which have been recurrent. Let's say in one company there has been wages not being paid for a while. The government of India has held the recruiter accountable at times, and the recruiters had to pay. The recruiters had to pay at least for repatriations, sometimes for loss in wages actually. So they are holding the recruiter accountable for some of the problems that are happening. So that's it.
Every agreement has to be registered with the Proctor General. Very, I think provisions are very good, but.
And just to, because we didn't come back to your point, sorry, yeah, does that satisfy you? Okay. We didn't come back to your point because it was not a question, but just to tell you that the government of India does have an international helpline. There is a helpline, there is services available there in 6 languages, I think, also available to people to get help. And the online grievance redressal system, the Mother, is available. I myself have recorded, you can record grievances on Mother, every worker can.
In fact, the earlier speaker, Mr. Surya Narayan, who came from the office of the Protector General, he told that people are helped whenever they are approached, something is done, some action is taken.
Hi, my name is Abhishek Karmakar. I am from Benelli, Assam. I had a question to ask about the situation in regards to the unregistered agents. It is quite clear that the unregistered agents and the network they have built all over the country, which penetrates every nook and cranny of the country, is the real problem behind the influx of immigrants into the Gulf and the harsh conditions they are facing there. Then the government, what it's trying to do here, from what I have heard, is that the government is trying to use its government-approved route for the immigrants to go there, so that the unregistered agents do not get their hands on the people. So I wanted to know, how did this network, which presumably has been in place for centuries, originate? And the second thing, what is the government or the other law enforcement agencies doing to curb this network? Because it is quite clear that this is the root of the problem.
Sub-agents, as we call them. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, sub-agents. The ones who are not registered, the ones who are in the ground, actually getting people across. This is historic, mind you. This has been there for centuries. It started with the British when they were moving indentured labor out of the country. They needed people to play a role to get labor together to move them. So this is as old as that. It goes back to the 1800s actually. So this is not new. They created them at times so that they could, when some recruiters became very powerful, it became more important to have others so that they could counter them out. So sub-agents has been a part of our historic kind of recruitment processes. Somewhere the problem may not lie there. The problem lies very much also with the employers. If the employers were keen on having and paying for recruitment, the chances are we would have lesser sub-agents making money along the way, because if someone is paying for it properly, the chances are you go through a legal route, you will get a legal recruiter, and that's how you will recruit. But the employers, of course, want the best benefits that they can for themselves, and one of the benefits is not to pay for recruitment, and that the worker ends up paying for recruitment, and this is where sub-agents come in actually. The sub-agents also provide a service, mind you. Nobody's providing it. Nobody's going to the village to tell people how to go. The sub-agent is. So there are, different sides to the story. In terms of the law and what's happening, they're considered illegal under Government of India Immigration Act. You're not supposed to have any sub-agents. I speak to all the recruiters. Everyone has sub-agents because they cannot find people if they don't have sub-agents, right? So this is part of the chain. So even a formal registered recruiter uses sub-agents. There's no way you can get people from a village if they don't trust you. And a recruiter sitting in Mumbai or a government recruiter sitting in Tamil Nadu has nobody knows them to have any trust in them. A villager will trust the next neighbor. And that's how it works. Somebody who's been outside comes back and often becomes a recruiter and takes 2 people with them. That's also a sub-agent in some ways, right? So I think it's much more deeply rooted than we think it is. It's more difficult to weed out than you would ever imagine. The legal angle is the Protector General's office, the POE officers actually inform the police and the home departments, and they're supposed to take care of the sub-agents. They're supposed to actually clamp down on them. The number of arrests are very few. It's only in very big cases that you actually will have an arrest. These are people who are ephemeral. Today it's somebody, tomorrow it's somebody else, third day it's somebody else. This is very, very hard to track. The chain can be down to 8 people before the villager was met. So there could be 7 or 8 people along the chain. Who are you going to catch at what level and when? This is extremely difficult to track. One of the solutions really here, I don't know if you all have noticed, and I'm sure you have if you've been there for a few years, look at the way the agents kind of disappeared in our railway system. If you remember a time, maybe 20 years ago, it was very hard to get a railway ticket. There were agents and agents and agents and tickets sold in black. What did we do? We went electronic. So you and I can sit here and book a ticket, reducing the role of the agent. The agents didn't vanish, so the registered ones stay on and they have a special way that they can book tickets. But you and I can also book tickets fairly easily, fairly quickly without an agent. And this is what I believe needs to happen for migration. I believe if we go in a way that it becomes easy for someone to put themselves into a system, for them to know where the job is and to connect jobs to people, I think we will drop the agents. But when we will get there, I don't know. I just hope we will.
Sir, I just have one question. One last question.
You are most wanted here.
So my question to Mr. Ashok sir. Sir, can you pay the attention? Sir, the question is when we say the migrants, that is legal and illegal migrants, so with reference to the India perspective, we see that with the example of West Bengal, we see that there is a number of illegal migrants occupying the area of West Bengal. So this was just the example of the one state, and I say that in almost every state there is a number of illegal migrants occupying the space of local natives. So, but the fundamental problems of all the illegal migrants and migration is one of this problem is that illegal migrants coming to the Indian state, and the state political bodies making politics on them, and further they gain the right to vote, and this all they gain the fundamental right. So I appeal to Mr. Ashok sir to kindly find PIL, please, because this is the ground, this is the field, please, this is the gross human right violation, not of the one state. This is the gross.
This is not the subject of discussion for today.
Yeah.
But your suggestion is taken note.
Please, sir.
Give me a one-page note of your.
Yeah, because sir, this is a gross human right violation. Thank you.
We now come to end of this session.